The journey to Valari space took 2 weeks. It was the longest 2 weeks of Yuna's life, but also some of the best. The white cub, whose name was something like Kira in the closest human translation, recovered quickly. Sujin was amazed at how fast Valari children healed. Within a week, Kira was walking again, running around the ship on all 6 legs, exploring every corner with wide, curious eyes. The gray cub's name was Talon. He was older than Kira by a few months, though they were not siblings by blood. In Valari culture, children from the same community were raised together and considered family. Talon had been protecting Kira since the crash, keeping her safe, keeping her fed, keeping her alive. He still carried the blue hair tie everywhere. He had learned to wrap it around his front leg like a bracelet. Whenever someone asked about it, he would make proud sounds and touch the faded blue fabric with gentle paws. Yuna learned many things about the cubs during those 2 weeks. She learned that they liked the taste of the sweet fruit Junho had in his personal food supply. She learned that they did not like loud noises, but loved soft music. She learned that they were smart, picking up a few human words within days. The first human word Talon learned was help. The second was friend. The crew of the Starbound fell in love with the cubs. Minho, who always seemed so serious and cold, was often found playing chase games with them in the cargo bay. Dahi would tell them stories about Earth, using pictures on her datapad to show them oceans and mountains and cities. Sujin checked their health every day, but spent most of her time just sitting with them, letting them climb on her shoulders. Even Junho, who was shy around new people, let the cubs sit in his lap while he worked at his console. They would watch the blinking lights with fascination, and Junho would explain what each one meant, even though they could not understand most of his words. Yuna watched all of this with a warm heart. Her crew had come together in a way she had never seen before. Saving these cubs had changed them, had reminded them why they did this job in the first place. On the last day before they reached Valari space, Yuna sat in the observation deck with Talon and Kira. The stars outside were different here, brighter, more colorful. They were close to the center of Valari territory now. Talon pressed his head against Yuna's arm and made a questioning sound. He had been sad all day, and Yuna knew why. He did not want to leave. "I know," she said softly. "I do not want to say goodbye either. But your people need you, and you need them." Kira climbed into her lap and looked up at her. The little white cub had grown attached to all of them, but especially to Yuna. She touched Yuna's face with one small paw and made a sound that was almost like a human word. "Stay." Yuna's heart broke a little. She hugged Kira close and tried not to cry. "I cannot stay with you, but I will always remember you, both of you. And if you ever need help again, just call. I will come. I promise." Talon touched the blue hair tie on his leg and made the thank you sound. Then he pressed himself against Yuna's other side, and the 3 of them sat together in silence, watching the stars. The next morning, the Starbound arrived at the main Valari station. It was a beautiful structure, all flowing curves and soft lights, built into an asteroid that floated in space. Hundreds of Valari ships moved around it, coming and going on their various journeys. A delegation was waiting for them when they docked. Elder Valari, with silver fur and wise eyes, surrounded by guards and healers and officials. News of the rescue had traveled fast. Everyone knew what the humans had done. Yuna walked down the ramp with Talon and Kira beside her. The cubs had been nervous all morning, but now they seemed excited. They recognized some of the Valari waiting for them, distant relatives, old friends, familiar faces from their past. An elderly female Valari stepped forward. Her fur was the same gray as Talon's, with the same black spots. Tears were running from her big eyes. "Grandmother!" Talon cried out and ran to her. They embraced, the old Valari wrapping all 6 of her legs around the small cub, making sounds of joy and relief. Kira found family to an uncle, who had been searching for her since he heard about the crash. The reunion was full of tears and happy sounds and gentle touches. Yuna stood back and watched. Her crew stood with her, all of them smiling despite the sadness of goodbye. One of the elder Valari approached her. He was tall and dignified, with pure white fur that shone in the light. He wore a simple necklace that showed his high rank. "Captain Yuna," he said in careful, accented human speech. "I am Elder Rovan. I speak for the Valari Council." Yuna bowed her head in respect. "It is an honor to meet you, Elder. The honor is ours." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You and your crew have done something remarkable. You saved 2 of our children. You risked your lives for beings you had never met, beings who are not even of your species. Anyone would have done the same," Yuna said. Elder Rovan made a sound that was like a gentle laugh. "No, Captain. Not anyone. In fact, very few would have done what you did. The Valari have lived among the stars for thousands of years. We have met many species. We have seen kindness and cruelty, bravery and cowardice, wisdom and foolishness. But what you did? It was something special." He stepped closer and looked into her eyes. "We asked the cubs about their rescue. They told us everything. How you walked alone through a dangerous forest all night. How you found them in a cave and healed Kira's wound. How you were patient and kind and gentle, even though you were tired and scared yourself." Yuna did not know what to say. She just listened. "But the thing that touched us most," Elder Rovan continued, "was the hair tie." He pointed to Talon, who was still holding his grandmother, but looking at Yuna across the distance. The blue hair tie was visible on his leg. "Talon told us that he found your marker in the forest. He followed your trail, hoping it would lead him to help. When he found you, he was trying to use the hair tie to save Kira's life. He had seen human medical videos once, years ago. He remembered that wounds should be covered, but he did not know how to do it properly. He did not know if it would work. He just knew he had to try." Elder Rovan's eyes were wet. "That is what you taught him, Captain. Without saying a word, without even being there, you taught a frightened child that help was possible. That strangers could be trusted. That even a small piece of fabric could be a lifeline." He reached into his robe and pulled out a small object. It was a pendant, made of a crystal that glowed with inner light. Beautiful and clearly valuable. "This is the Star of Compassion," he said. "It is the highest honor the Valari can give to an outsider. In 10,000 years, we have given it to only 7 beings. You will be the 8th. He placed the pendant around Yuna's neck. The crew of the Starbound clapped and cheered. The Valari around them made sounds of approval and celebration. But Yuna was not looking at the pendant. She was looking at Talon and Kira, who had broken away from their families and were running toward her. They crashed into her legs and wrapped their small bodies around her, making happy sounds that needed no translation. She knelt down and hugged them both. "Be good," she whispered. "Be brave. Help others when you can. And remember, you are never alone. There are always people who will come for you. Always." Talon touched her face with his paw. "Friend," he said in his careful human word. "Yes," Yuna said, tears running down her face. "Friend, always." She stood up and walked back to her ship. The cubs watched her go, waving with their small paws. The crew of the Starbound waved back as the ramp closed and the engines started. As the ship pulled away from the station. Yuna stood at the window and watched until the Valari station was just a small point of light among the stars. Elder Rovan's question echoed in her mind. Why did a human risk everything for alien children? The answer was simple. Because someone had to. Because that was what humans did. And somewhere in the galaxy, A young Velari cub was wearing a faded blue hair tie and learning that help could come from anywhere, even from the stars, even from strangers, even from a species he had never met before. That was the legacy of Captain Yuna. That was the legacy of the Starbound. That was the legacy of humanity, and it was only the beginning. Yuna sat in the cave for a long time, letting the cubs rest. The white one had fallen asleep, its breathing now steady and calm. The gray one stayed awake, watching her with curious eyes. It seemed to have decided that she was safe. She pressed the button on her communicator. "Minho, can you hear me?" The response came through with some static. "Captain." "Yes, I hear you." "Did you find them?" "I found them. 2 Velari cubs. One is injured, but stable now. We are in a cave on the mountainside." "That is great news. What are your coordinates?" Yuna looked at her locator device and read off the numbers. "Can you bring the ship closer? The injured one cannot walk very far." "On our way." "Hold tight, Captain." Yuna put the communicator away and looked at the gray cub. It was still watching her, still holding the blue hair tie against its chest. She wondered what was going through its mind. It had lost everything, its family, its home, everyone it knew. And now it was in a cave with a strange alien creature. But it was not crying. It was not hiding. It was being strong for its friend. "You are taking care of your friend," Yuna said softly. "That is a hard job. I know it is scary, but you are doing so well." The cub tilted its head, listening to her voice even though it could not understand her words. "When I was young," Yuna continued, "my grandmother took care of me. My parents were always working. They were never home. But my grandmother was always there. She taught me that the most important thing in life is to help others. She said that when we help someone, we become stronger ourselves." The gray cub made a soft sound and moved a little closer. Yuna smiled. "She would have liked you. She always said that bravery is not about being strong. It is about being scared and doing the right thing anyway. You're a very brave little one." Time passed slowly in the cave. The glowing moss on the walls seemed to pulse gently, like a heartbeat. The stream made soft sounds as it flowed across the stone floor. Outside, Yuna could hear birds singing in the morning light. The white cub woke up after about an hour. It looked around, confused at first, then remembered where it was. When it saw Yuna, it did not seem afraid anymore. It looked at the bandage on its leg and made a questioning sound. The gray cub went over to it and made several quick sounds. Yuna could not understand the words, but she understood the meaning. The gray one was explaining what had happened, that this strange creature had helped them, that they were safe now. The white cub looked at Yuna and made the thank you sound. Its voice was weak but sincere. "You are welcome," Yuna said. "Can you stand? My friends are coming with our ship. We need to go meet them." She stood up slowly and held out her hand. The cubs looked at her hand, then at each other. The gray one moved first, walking over on its 6 little legs and pressing its head against Yuna's palm. The fur was so soft, softer than anything Yuna had ever touched. She felt a warmth spread through her chest. The white cub tried to stand. Its injured leg was weak, and it stumbled. Yuna quickly moved to help, but the gray cub was faster. It pushed itself under its friend, supporting the white one's weight with its own body. Together, the 3 of them made their way to the cave entrance. The sunlight outside was bright after the darkness of the cave. Yuna had to cover her eyes for a moment. When her vision cleared, she saw the most beautiful sight. The Starbound was flying toward them, its silver body shining in the morning light. It moved slowly, carefully, looking for a place to land on the rocky mountainside. "Look," Yuna said to the cubs. "That is my ship. That is how we will take you home." The cubs stared at the ship with wide eyes. They had probably never seen a human vessel before. The Starbound was different from Valari's ships, more angular, more industrial. But right now, it was the most beautiful thing in the galaxy. The ship landed on a flat area about 50 meters away. The ramp came down, and Sujin ran out with a stretcher and more medical supplies. Minho followed close behind, his eyes scanning the area for danger. "Captain," Sujin called. "Are you okay?" "I am fine. But we need to check the white one. It lost a lot of blood." Sujin hurried over and knelt beside the white cub. The cub looked scared at first, but when Yuna made a calming sound and touched its head gently, it relaxed. Sujin examined the wound and the bandage. "Good work, Captain. The bleeding stopped, but we need to give it fluids and monitor for infection. Can we move it to the ship?" "Yes, carefully." They placed the white cub on the stretcher. The gray cub refused to leave its friend's side, walking alongside and making worried sounds. Yuna stayed close, her hand on the gray cub's back, offering comfort. As they walked toward the ship, Minho fell into step beside Yuna. "You found them," he said. "I did not think you would. I had to try. You walked all night. Through an unknown forest. On an alien moon. For two children you had never met." Yuna looked at him. "And you would have done the same thing." Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, a rare thing for him. "Yes, I suppose I would." They reached the ship and carried the cubs inside. The medical bay was small but well-equipped. Sujin placed the white cub on a bed and started connecting monitors and 4 lines. The gray cub jumped up onto the bed too, curling up next to its friend. "Should I move it?" Sujin asked. Yuna shook her head. "No, let them stay together. They have been through too much to be separated now." For the next few hours, Sujin worked to stabilize the white cub. She gave it fluids to replace the blood it had lost. She gave it medicine to fight infection and help with pain. The gray cub watched everything she did with intense attention, as if trying to learn. Yuna sat in a chair nearby, finally allowing herself to rest. Her body was exhausted. Every muscle ached. But she could not sleep. She kept watching the cub's dot. At one point, the gray cub climbed down from the bed and walked over to her. It looked up at her with its big eyes and made a soft sound. Then it climbed up onto her lap and curled into a ball. Yuna felt tears in her eyes again. She gently placed her hand on the cub's soft fur. The cub made a happy sound and closed its eyes. Junho's voice came over the speaker. "Captain, I have managed to access some of the data from the crashed Valari ship. I know who attacked them." Yuna looked up. "Who?" "Raiders from the outer systems. A group called the Black Fang. They target Valari transports to steal their medical supplies. Worth a fortune on the black market." Anger burned in Yuna's chest. Pirates who attacked innocent people, who killed families, who left children alone in the wilderness to die. "Send all the information to the patrol fleet," she said. "I want those raiders found." "Already done, Captain." Yuna looked down at the gray cub sleeping in her lap. It looked so peaceful now, so safe. She made a silent promise. Not just to this cub, not just to its injured friend, but to all the children in the galaxy who might one day need help. She would always answer. She would always come, because that was what humans did. The Starbounds. Engines hummed as the ship lifted off from the moon and flew toward the stars. In the medical bay, 2 Valari cubs slept soundly for the first time in days. They were going home. The night was long and dark. Yuna walked through the forest for hours, guided only by the soft glow of the strange flowers and the light of distant stars. Her legs were tired. Her body was cold. But she did not stop. The mountains grew closer. She could see them clearly now, rising up like giants against the night sky. The caves she had spotted earlier were dark mouths in the rock, silent and mysterious. somewhere in one of those caves. Two children might be hiding. She reached the base of the mountain just as the first light of morning appeared in the sky. The air was even colder here, and her breath made small clouds in front of her face. She stopped to rest for a moment, sitting on a large rock. Her communicator beeped. "Captain, this is Sujin. Are you okay?" "I am fine. Just tired." "I reached the mountains. Did you find them?" "Not yet, but I am close. I can feel it." There was worry in Sujin's voice. "Captain, you have been walking all night. You need to rest. You need food. I will rest when I find them." Sujin was quiet for a moment. "Please be careful." Yuna smiled even though no one could see her. "I will." Yuna out. She stood up and looked at the caves above her. There were many of them, scattered across the mountainside. It would take days to search them all. But she did not have days. Those children did not have days. She needed to be smart. Yuna looked at the ground. The rock was hard here, and she could not see any footprints. But as she walked along the base of the mountain, she noticed something else. Broken branches, moved rocks, small signs that someone had passed through recently. She followed the signs up a narrow path. It was steep and dangerous. Loose rocks fell away under her feet. She grabbed tree roots and stone edges to pull herself higher. Sweat ran down her face, even in the cold air. After an hour of climbing, she found something that made her heart beat faster. Her blue hair tie. It was lying on a rock near the entrance to a small cave. The fabric was dirty now, covered in mud and dust. But it was definitely hers. She had left it on a branch far below. Someone had taken it. Someone had brought it here. The children. They must have found her marker. They must have followed her trail. And for some reason, they had taken the hair tie with them. Yuna picked it up carefully. The fabric was still soft in her hands. She looked at the cave entrance. It was small, barely big enough for a person to fit through. But for small Velari children, it would be perfect. "Hello?" She called softly. "Is anyone there?" "I am here to help you." No answer. She got down on her hands and knees and crawled into the cave. The tunnel was dark and narrow. She could hear water dripping somewhere ahead. The air smelled wet and old. After a few meters, the tunnel opened into a larger space. Yuna stood up slowly and looked around. The cave was bigger than she expected. The ceiling was high, and the walls were covered in glowing moss that gave off a soft green light. A small stream ran through the middle of the floor. And in the far corner, she saw them. Two Velari cubs huddled together against the wall. They were small, about the size of human children around 5 or 6 years old. Their fur was dirty and matted. Their big eyes were wide with fear. One of them was gray with black spots. The other was pure white. The white one was hurt. Yuna could see a wound on its front leg. The fur around it was dark with dried blood. The gray cub was crouched next to it, doing something with its small paws. It was trying to bandage the wound with her blue hair tie. Yuna felt tears come to her eyes. The gray cub had wrapped the hair tie around its friend's leg, trying to stop the bleeding. It must have seen something like this before. Maybe in a video. Maybe on the ship before it crashed. Somehow, it had learned that wounds needed to be covered, but it was doing it wrong. The hair tie was too loose. It was not helping at all. The white cub was still bleeding, slowly but surely. If it did not get proper help soon, it would die. Yuna took a slow step forward. Both cubs looked at her with terrified eyes. The gray one moved in front of the white one, trying to protect its friend. It made a small sound, half growl and half cry. "It is okay," Yuna said softly. "I am not going to hurt you. I am here to help." The cubs did not understand her words. Velari spoke a different language, a complex series of sounds that human voices could not make. But maybe they could understand her tone. Maybe they could hear the kindness in her voice. She knelt down slowly, making herself smaller, less scary. She held out her empty hands to show she had no weapons. See? I am a friend. I came to find you. The gray cub watched her closely. Its big eyes moved from her face to her hands to her feet. It was studying her, trying to decide if she was dangerous. Yuna did not move. She barely breathed. She let the cub take its time. After what felt like forever, the gray cub made a different sound, softer, questioning. It tilted its head to one side and looked at her with something like hope in its eyes. That is right, Yuna said. I am here to help. Will you let me see your friend? She pointed at the white cub's injured leg. The gray cub looked at the wound, then back at Yuna. It made the soft sound again and slowly stepped aside. Yuna crawled forward very carefully. The white cub was shaking. It was weak from blood loss and fear. Its eyes were half closed, and its breathing was shallow. It did not have much time. I am going to fix your leg, Yuna said as she got closer. It will hurt a little, but then you will feel better. I promise. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out the small first aid kit she always carried. It was not much, just some bandages and cleaning solution and basic medicine. But it would have to be enough. She gently removed the blue hair tie from the wound. The gray cub watched her every move, its eyes never leaving her hands. When she cleaned the wound, the white cub cried out in pain. The gray cub immediately moved closer, pressing its small body against its friend, offering comfort. Yuna worked quickly. She cleaned the wound, applied medicine to stop infection, and wrapped it properly with a real bandage. The white cub's crying slowly stopped. Its breathing became easier. There, Yuna said. All done. You will be okay now. The white cub opened its eyes and looked at her. For the first time, there was no fear in its gaze. Only gratitude. The gray cub made a new sound. This one was different from all the others. It was soft and warm, like a purr. Yuna had heard this sound before from adult Villari. It meant thank you. Tears ran down Yuna's face, but she was smiling. You are welcome, little one. You are welcome. She looked at the gray cub. It was still holding the blue hair tie in its paw, clutching it like a treasure. It had tried so hard to save its friend. It had done everything it could think of. And even though its method was wrong, its heart was right. You are very brave, Yuna told it. Both of you are very brave. The gray cub looked at the hair tie, then at Yuna. Then, slowly, carefully, it held the hair tie out toward her. Yuna shook her head. No, you keep it. It is yours now. The cub made a confused sound. A gift, Yuna said. From me to you. So you will remember that help can come from anywhere. Even from strangers. Even from a different species. The gray cub looked at the hair tie for a long moment. Then it pressed the fabric against its chest and made the thank you sound again. Yuna sat back against the cave wall. She was exhausted. Her whole body ached. But she was happy. She had found them. Now she just had to get them home. The air on the moon was thin and cold. Yuna could breathe it, but each breath felt like it was not enough. She pulled her jacket tighter and walked toward the crashed ship. Minho was beside her, his hand on his weapon. Sujin followed behind them, carrying her heavy medical bag. The forest around them was strange. The trees were tall and purple, with leaves that made soft sounds in the wind. Small creatures ran through the branches above, watching the humans with curious eyes. This world was alive, but it felt lonely somehow. The crashed ship was worse than it looked from above. The front was completely destroyed. Metal was twisted and torn apart. Glass was broken everywhere. The smell of burned fuel filled the air. Yuna had seen many crashed ships in her life, but this one made her stomach turn. How did this happen? Sujin asked quietly. Minho pointed to the sky. See those marks on the hull? Those are weapon burns. Someone shot this ship down. Yuna looked closer. He was right. Long black lines ran across the silver metal. Someone had attacked the ship. Someone had wanted it to fall pirates? She asked. Maybe. Or something worse. They found the first body near the entrance. It was a Valari adult, tall and covered in gray fur. Its 6 legs were twisted at wrong angles. Its big eyes were closed. Yuna knelt beside it and checked for a pulse. Nothing. The Valari was cold. Dead for at least a day, Sujin said sadly. There is nothing we can do. They moved deeper into the ship. The inside was dark. Emergency lights flickered on and off, making shadows dance on the walls. Everything was broken. Seats were torn from the floor. Cargo boxes were scattered everywhere. And there were more bodies. Yuna counted 7 dead Valari in total. All adults. Some looked like they had tried to fight back. Others looked like they had been protecting something. Or someone. Where are the children? She asked. Sujin said there were small life signs. Minho looked around. Maybe they hid. When the attack happened, the adults might have told them to run. That made sense. Yuna remembered the stories she had heard about the Valari. They loved their children more than anything. They would die to protect them. Looking at the bodies around her, she knew that was exactly what had happened here. We need to find them, she said. They could be hurt. They could be scared. They have been alone for days. She walked to the back of the ship. There was a large hole in the wall where something had broken through. Through the hole, she could see the forest outside. Fresh air flowed in, carrying the smell of plants and dirt. And on the ground near the hole, she saw small footprints. Look at this, she called to the others. Minho and Sujin came over. The footprints were clear in the soft dirt. Small, with 6 toes each. Valari children. 2 sets of prints, going into the forest. They escaped through here, Minho said. Smart kids, but where did they go? Sujin asked. The forest is huge. They could be anywhere by now. Yuna stood up and looked at the trees. The purple leaves moved in the wind. The forest seemed to go on forever, dark and deep and full of unknowns. 2 small children were out there somewhere, alone and afraid. She reached up and touched her hair tie. The blue fabric was warm against her fingers. She thought about her grandmother again, about all the times the old woman had told her to be brave. I will find them, Yuna said. Alone? Minho asked. Captain, that is not a good idea. We do not know this forest. There could be dangerous animals. There could be children who need help. Yuna cut him off. Minho, you stay here with the ship. Search for anything useful. Supplies, medicine, information about who attacked them. Sujin, go back to the Starbound and get more medical equipment ready. If those children are hurt, we will need to treat them fast. And you? Sujin asked. I will follow the footprints. I will find them. Minho did not look happy, but he nodded. He knew there was no point in arguing with her. Take your communicator. Check in every 30 minutes. If you miss a check, I am coming after you. Yuna smiled at him. I would expect nothing less. She stepped through the hole in the ship wall and started walking into the forest. The footprints were easy to follow at first. The children had been running, their small feet pressing deep into the soft ground. They must have been so scared. As she walked, Yuna thought about the Valari. She had met a few of them over the years. They were gentle beings who did not like violence. They had soft voices and kind hearts. Their children were especially precious to them. In Valari culture, Children were raised by the whole community, not just their parents. Every adult was responsible for every child. These two children had lost everyone. Their whole community, their whole family, killed in an attack. Now they were alone on a strange moon with no one to protect them. Yuna walked faster. The forest grew thicker as she went deeper. The purple trees blocked out the light from the sky. Strange plants grew everywhere, some with flowers that glowed softly in the darkness. She heard sounds she did not recognize, animal calls, bird songs, things moving through the bushes. After an hour, the footprints became harder to see. The ground was rockier here, and the children had started walking more carefully. They were trying to hide their trail. Smart, Yuna thought. They were trying to stay safe. She stopped at a place where a stream crossed her path. The water was clear and cold. She knelt down to drink some and looked around. The footprints disappeared at the stream's edge. The children had walked through the water to hide where they went. But which way? Yuna looked left, then right. Both directions looked the same. She closed her eyes and tried to think like a scared child. Where would she go? What would she look for? Safety, shelter, a place to hide. She opened her eyes and looked at the mountains rising above the trees. There were dark spots on the mountainside, caves. If she was a scared child, she would look for a cave to hide in. She turned right, following the stream toward the mountain's dot. As she walked, she pulled the blue hair tie from her hair. Her black hair fell around her shoulders, but she did not care. She found a low branch that hung over the path and tied the hair tie around it. The blue fabric stood out against the purple leaves. If she got lost, she could find her way back. And if the children came this way, they might see it and know that someone was looking for them. Someone friendly. She kept walking, leaving more markers as she went. A piece of cloth from her jacket. A small pile of rocks. Anything to show she had been there. The sun was starting to go down. The sky turned orange and pink through the gaps in the trees. The air grew colder. Yuna pulled her jacket tighter and kept moving. Her communicator beeped. "Captain, this is Minho. Report." "I am still following their trail," she said. "Heading toward the mountains. No sign of them yet. It is getting dark. Maybe you should come back and try again tomorrow." Yuna looked at the sky. Those children have been alone for days. They might be hurt. They might be dying. I am not stopping. There was silence on the other end. Then Minho sighed. "Understood. Be careful, Captain. Always." She kept walking as darkness fell. The glowing flowers around her grew brighter, giving her enough light to see the path. Somewhere ahead, two small children were waiting for help. They did not know it yet, but help was coming. Yuna would not let them down. She thought about all the rescues she had done over the years. Humans, aliens, old people, young people, rich people, poor people. She had saved them all, because that was her job. That was her purpose, but this one felt different. This one felt personal, Don. Maybe it was because they were children. Maybe it was because they were alone. Maybe it was because the blue hair tie was no longer in her hair but hanging on a branch somewhere behind her, waiting to guide them home, whatever the reason. Yuna kept walking. She would find them, no matter how long it took. The stars were quiet that night. They always were in this part of the galaxy. Captain Yuna sat in her chair on the bridge of the rescue vessel, starbound, and looked at the endless darkness through the main window. Her ship was small. It had a crew of only 12 people, but it was fast and it was strong, and it had saved many lives over the years. Yuna was 34 years old. She had black hair that she always tied back with a simple blue hair tie. Her grandmother had given it to her many years ago, before Yuna left Earth to work in space. She never took it off. It was old and faded now, but it reminded her of home. The Starbound was on its way back to Station 12 after a long mission. They had rescued a cargo ship that lost power near the Amber Nebula. Everyone was tired. Everyone wanted to go home and rest. But space did not care about what people wanted. "Captain," said Junho, the communications officer. He was young, only 25, with kind eyes and quick hands. "I am picking up something strange." Yuna turned her chair toward him. "What is it?" "A distress beacon. Very weak. Coming from—" He checked his screen again. "From Moon KX7. It is not on any of our maps." Yuna frowned. KX-7 was far from the normal shipping routes. No one should be there. It was a small moon with a thin atmosphere, covered in forests and mountains. The kind of place that was forgotten by everyone. "How old is the signal?" she asked. "Hard to say. Maybe 2 days. Maybe 3. The signal is very weak, Captain. It keeps breaking up." Yuna stood and walked to the navigation console. Dahi, the navigator, was already pulling up the coordinates. She was a quiet woman with gray hair and steady hands. She had been flying ships since before Yuna was born. "It will take us 6 hours to reach that moon," Dahi said. "We will have to leave our current course. What about fuel?" Yuna asked. "We have enough. But it will be close." Junho spoke again. "Captain, I should tell you something. The beacon. It is not a standard human signal. It is alien. I think it might be Valari." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew about the Valari. They were a race of beings that looked like large foxes with 6 legs. They had soft fur and big eyes. They were peaceful traders who traveled between star systems selling rare medicines and beautiful art. But they were also very private. They did not like strangers. They did not ask for help from other species. "Are you sure?" Yuna asked. "Yes, Captain. The signal pattern matches Valari emergency codes." Yuna thought for a moment. The Valari had never asked humans for help before. Not once in the 50 years since first contact. If they were sending a distress signal now, something very bad must have happened. Minho, the security chief, walked up to stand beside her. He was a big man with a serious face. "Captain, this could be a trap. Pirates sometimes use fake distress signals to catch ships off guard." "I know," Yuna said. "We are tired. The crew needs rest. And that moon is in the middle of nowhere. If something goes wrong, no one will come to help us." "I know," Yuna said again. Minho crossed his arms. "So what do you want to do?" Yuna looked around the bridge at her crew. Junho was watching her with worry in his eyes. Dahi was waiting calmly for orders. The others were at their stations, pretending not to listen but hearing every word. She thought about her grandmother. The old woman had lived through hard times on Earth, wars and disasters and all kinds of trouble. But she always said the same thing. When someone asks for help, you help them. That is what makes us human. "Set course for KX-7, Yuna said. "Full speed." Minho sighed but did not argue. He knew his captain. Once she made a decision, she did not change her mind. The Starbound turned away from its path home and flew into the dark space between stars. The engines hummed louder as they pushed the ship faster. Everyone on the bridge felt the change. They were no longer going home. They were going into the unknown. 4 hours into the journey, Yuna tried to sleep in her small cabin. But sleep would not come. She kept thinking about the distress beacon. Who had sent it? Were they still alive? What had happened to them? She got up and went to the observation deck. It was a small room at the top of the ship with a glass ceiling. She could see the stars above her, millions and millions of them, each one a sun with its own planets and moons. Somewhere out there, someone needed help. Junho found her there an hour later. "Captain, We are getting closer to the moon. The signal is stronger now. Good. What can you tell me about it? It is definitely Valari. But Captain, he paused. I think the signal is coming from a ship on the surface. A crashed ship. Yuna's heart grew cold. Survivors? I do not know. The signal is automatic. It does not tell us anything about the people who sent it. She nodded and followed him back to the bridge. Through the main window, she could now see the moon. It was gray and green, covered in thick forests. Mountains rose up from the surface like teeth. It looked wild and dangerous. Take us down, Yuna ordered. Find that beacon. The Starbound entered the thin atmosphere of KX-7. The ship shook as it pushed through the air. Alarms beeped and lights flashed, but the crew stayed calm. They had done this many times before. Dahi guided the ship toward the source of the signal. It was in a valley between two tall mountains. As they got closer, Yuna saw the crashed ship. It was Valari design, long and silver, now broken and burned. It had hit the ground hard. Trees were knocked down all around it. Smoke still rose from the wreckage. Life signs? Yuna asked Su Jin, the medical officer, checked her scanner. She was young and new to the crew, but she was good at her job. Her face went pale as she read the results. Captain, I am reading several Valari life signs, but they are very weak. Very weak. And Captain, some of them are small. Small? Yuna said. Children, Sujin whispered. I think there are children down there. Yuna grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. Minho, you are with me. Sujin, bring your medical kit. Everyone else, stay on the ship and keep watch. She did not wait for them to follow. She was already running toward the airlock. Someone needed help. And Yuna was going to help them. That was what humans did.